Mr Speaker, this bill to increase excise duties on tobacco products is being introduced under extraordinary urgency. I understand that. The House, therefore, understands that this issue is urgent. There is no public debate allowable. There's no select committee, etc. I happen to agree with what the government is proposing, and I will support it. But this bill highlights the reasons why this step in particular is being taken. That is, to increase the price of a legal drug which is in fact dangerous to the health of any New Zealander who partakes in it. And the reason that this bill is being introduced is that the price effect on tobacco is significant. If you increase the price of tobacco, you reduce the volume of tobacco that is smoked. There's a linear relationship. And many studies all around the world will show exactly the same thing for product after product. Unfortunately, if you look at the supermarkets of New Zealand, Coca-Cola is cheaper than water or milk. And people buy Coca-Cola. Why? Because it's cheaper. It may well be disastrous for the teeth of the children who are drinking it, and it is, but nevertheless, because it's cheap, people don't buy it. And that's why this price effect is going to be relevant in this case. I have to say, however, Mr Speaker, that just 24 hours ago, within minutes of the Law Commission's report on alcohol being introduced into this House, the government immediately, through Simon Power, the Minister of Justice, reacted and said, we are not going to put up the price of alcohol. Immediately. It wasn't like, oh, we'll give consideration to it. It was only, the ink wasn't dry on the report and we're not going to introduce the price. Would the price increase of alcohol reduce alcohol consumption? Yes, it would. It's a very effective means of doing it. I know that because I introduced a bill that said the price of light spirits, so-called light spirits, targeted at young people at 23% proof alcohol, was lambasted by the industry. Full-page ads were taken out against me personally, but light spirits were reduced by 85% in terms of sale and went off the market. That doesn't mean to say there's not alcohol pops and stuff like that, but these were lethal light spirits. These were 23% proof alcohol in vodka and brandy and gin and whiskey and so on. So we know that this 30% increase in tobacco is going to be effective, but Mr Power said about alcohol it would be unfair to all of the people who drink alcohol. Well, I presume that a 30% plus increase in tobacco is going to be unfair to some of the people who smoke tobacco too. I still agree with it, but it is amazing how an attitude one day can change on the issue of alcohol to tobacco, where we can really have a crack at them. I see, all right, we're going to hear this. Here's the industry line. Here's the industry line. Oh, I can hear it. I can hear it. Mr Dunn's not here, so we've got plenty of acolytes in his place. They're spouting the industry line. 5,000 people die every year from tobacco smoking in New Zealand. That is true. And that makes this kind of measure significant and important. What is there about the social, economic and health problems of alcohol that make it different from tobacco? Is it a significant social and economic health cost? We just heard Dr Blue say that the cost of tobacco is $1 to $2 billion. The cost of alcohol to New Zealand is indicated by reputable economists and analysts to be of the order of $2 to $3 billion a year. So that's at least as much as smoking and could well be more. So there's no problem about it being a significant cost. Is drinking alcohol a health risk? Yes, it is. A very serious health risk. And the jury is coming in on that all the time. Are between 60 to 80% of all police arrests to do with alcohol abuse? Yes, they are. 60 to 80%. Are 60% of the people who are in our prisons affected by alcohol? The answer is yes. And yet we're told that we desperately need, under extraordinary urgency, a tobacco bill through the House, which I personally support. A day after, we're told that the price effect is not to be contemplated in alcohol, when demonstrably all of the effects of tobacco, plus some, are there in evidence before us, but the government actually has a knee-jerk reaction against that. Why is that? Well, the tobacco industry is on the ropes. See, the people are brave now. Dr. Blue has said, well, she didn't used to believe this, and there are plenty of people over that outside the House. When Helen Clark was pushing for this and was pilloried as the Minister for Health for doing it, and when was that, 1990? So that was nearly 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Didn't have too much support then, but now it's a brave thing to do. Why? Because everything's been done practically, and the tobacco industry has given up here. They know that's a done deal. But the liquor industry hasn't given up. Oh, no. They're really into this. They're going to fight this tooth and claw. And the brave government will take on the on-the-ropes tobacco industry, but they won't have a bar of taking on the liquor industry, which is actually a much more significant and important problem facing New Zealand now than ever before. Will raising the price of tobacco reduce the smoking levels? Yes, it will. Will raising the price of alcohol reduce the volume of alcohol? Absolutely it will. But no, we haven't got any courage from the government on that. So under extraordinary urgency, we're passing this bill. It's opposition to raising the price of the most dangerous drug in New Zealand. I could call that a word which I'm not allowed to use in this House. So I'll say it's one of the most significant acts of double standards I've ever seen. One day, a serious drug is not to be touched in terms of price, even though the price effect is going to be very effective, and I acknowledge that. Next day, the industry that really hasn't got a feather to fly with is going to get clobbered into the ground because the brave government will take them on after all the hard work's been done. But they won't take on an industry that's still up in there and fighting tooth and claw to hang on to their... I mean, I heard the representative of the hospitality industry this morning on Morning Report. He admitted that every single thing in the alcohol bill that he agrees with is a vested interest of the industry. He said it. He said, yeah, it is a vested interest. I admit that. Yes, that is too. That is too. Is there anything that isn't a vested interest, the interviewer said, that you agree with? No. Oh, well, then we understand where they're coming from. But Mr Dunn didn't. He had to meet with them 7 times. And he wasn't sure what they meant, but he knew what Doug Selman meant. He wouldn't meet with him at all. Now, Mr Speaker, I support this legislation, and I have contempt for the government that is bringing this in a day after it backed off completely from doing the most effective thing on alcohol. I have contempt for it, I'm telling you now, because it would have been at least an act of some responsibility to do that yesterday. This one it's needed to be done, but it has to be done regularly, and I support it. But I contrast it with the completely mealy-mouthed approach we had yesterday on alcohol, and I am ashamed of you for that.